How we doing, guys? How we doing all right today? Cool. Well, like I said, my name is Jordan. I'm the kids pastor. If you've never seen me before, it's because you're very new to Acworth, because I'm not there a whole lot anymore, because I'm also on the Kennesaw launch team. And so because of that, we get this awesome opportunity today to get both campuses in one place, in one building, and we get to talk about the things that are important. And so that's kind of what the direction that we're going today, is we're laying out a foundation of things that are getting ready to happen. And it's really, right now, they're going to sound like really, really big ideas. So the best way that we could do this is we broke it into 4 parts, and all 4 of the kids' staff, we're going to present one piece at a time. We called it our non-negotiables, because while we were at a conference recently, we came up with a question, and the question was, what are our non-negotiables? Does anyone have an idea of what a non-negotiable is? Someone just give me an idea. Just any answer will do. Anybody? It's what? It's in concrete. You can't, it's a take it or take it, not take it or leave it. It's a take it or take it thing. You have to follow the non-negotiable. And so part of the question came when another children's ministry asked the question, what are the things that help you make decisions the best? Because as a ministry, there's certain things that we do not want to bend on. There's certain things that have to happen every Sunday. And that's something that we wanted to go ahead and nail down as a ministry before we try to go into any other campuses, before we try to grow any bigger than we are. We're going to make sure that our non-negotiables for the kids ministry are there. And so they're solid. And so we came up with a couple of things that we thought was very, very important. First off was consistent voices. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more in just a minute. So consistent voices. And yes, please do write down, take notes, because these things are going to play a very big part in the future. They're going to come back up very soon, and over the next couple of years even. So consistent voices. This is very, very important. And if you guys will hold that slide, because they're going to go into their stuff. So consistent voices. Next, dynamic teaching. Dynamic teaching. And like I said, all this is going to be explained in detail, so you can just kind of get the big 4, and then we'll break it down even further. Thirdly is a meaningful volunteer experience. A meaningful volunteer experience. And then the last one doesn't have a really cool adjective, but it's very, very, very important. Partnering with families. Partnering with families. So, consistent voices, dynamic teaching. What was the third one? You guys remember? Where it is? Oh, you got it. You guys, man, you already wrote that down, didn't you? And, of course, the last one, partnering with families. Cool. So, like I said, I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork, let you guys know where we're going. These things are our non-negotiables. We decided that everything that we do has to be passed through this filter. If it doesn't do one of these 4 things, maybe we shouldn't focus on it. Maybe it shouldn't be a part of Freedom Kids, because it doesn't really help us in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't help us in the direction that we're going. And so the first thing is consistent voices. This is a very important part of what I do, because I have the awesome responsibility and the great pleasure of being able to lead the Freedom Kids team. And so we have to kind of stay ahead of the curve. As you know, our ministry does a lot of things differently than a lot of other churches do. And so we try to always be a little different, but also stay ahead. And that can be really difficult when you're growing at the rate the Freedom Church is growing at. And so consistent voices is, I was trying to think of a good analogy, something I could think of to help everyone kind of connect back. You guys all, at one point, every one of you have watched reality television, correct? Yes, don't lie. Don't lie. I know some of you are like, no, I don't watch that. So what are some of your favorite shows? This is interactive, so you just shout them out. Survivor, great show. Amazing Race. American Ninja Warrior. That is a very harsh reality, because no one gets through that thing. Master Chef, that's one of my favorites. The Apprentice. Say what? Undercover Boss? Yeah, that definitely is, yeah. So you still haven't said the one I was looking for, though. So what I think of, what'd you say? American Idol? Very close to the one I was thinking of. So the thing about reality shows is that, I don't know if you know this, but you should, if you're my age or older than me, you should know this. This is not what television has always been. Reality television is not scripted, and it's actually a cheaper way to do television, because you don't have to script it. But they don't show you the whole story. I know that's going to be a shock to some of you, but they only pick the scenes they want you to see. And they only pick, if you've noticed, very, very stereotypical people to be on those shows. It'll be like super liberal or super conservative. You can always bank on that. There'll be one or the other, and there'll be super one of those, I promise. And it's just interesting because they're trying to create a dialogue. They're trying to create the tension. And so what I found out is that if we're not careful, the way that we speak to kids, the way that we consistently invest in kids can resemble a reality television show. Here's how. We only show them the things that we want to see, that we want them to see. So we're like, we don't have any problems as adults, and you don't get to see my problems because I'm an adult. And then when they look up to us, they have an unrealistic image of what we are. And that's a problem because we're trying to earn the right to be a consistent voice. In order to be a consistent voice, at one point, they're going to find out the facade that you've been putting up isn't the person that you are. And so that's the reality TV side of things. The other thing is, my favorite show, one of my favorite reality shows, is The Voice. You guys ever seen that? The Voice? The thing about The Voice, if you've never seen it, how many of you guys have never seen The Voice? Okay, so if you've never seen The Voice, here's how it works. There's a panel of celebrity judges. They have their chairs turned. They're not allowed to see who's singing. As soon as they hear the voice, they're allowed to either press the button that says, I want to coach that person, or they just listen and wait for their opportunity. Then, once they hit the button, their chair turns around, and they see who's singing on stage. Now, the big thing about that is that in American Idol, they sometimes make choices, very unusually, based on how someone looks. And so they thought, this isn't a great idea. I don't think that's fair. So they came up with the voice. So I like this idea because basically, if we think of kids ministry as we do about the voice, who do you care enough about? If you just heard a child's voice, would you turn your chair for them? If you just saw what was going on in the life of a child, would you turn your chair for them? Who do you want to invest in? Who do you want to be a part of? And so, I know that when we talk about consistent voices, you're probably like, I want to be a consistent voice. I want to turn my chair. I want to be a coach. But what does that mean? How do I do that? And I think that's a great question. And you know what? I want to give you just a couple of quick things that you can do. 2 main points. Be invested is number 1. Be invested. How do I be invested? How do I invest? How do I be invested? That's terrible. How do I invest in kids? What's the favorite channel that kids love to watch? They love to watch PBS. So I'm going to follow that. PBS. First off, pray consistently with the kids in your rooms. Pray consistently with the kids in your rooms. This is a great way to invest. Great way. Secondly, build. Build up the kids in encouragement. Give them all the encouragement that they need. Just keep building them up continually. And yes, they're going to make mistakes, but give them encouragement through that. And then the last thing is to serve them. This is like the last step because it takes a little bit of time to build up to that. Because you're not always going to be able to parents aren't going to want you to show up at a baseball game if they don't know who you are. You're going to be very creepy if you're like, I just met Joey last week and I'm going to his baseball game. I'm so excited that you're so zealous about reaching that kid. But I am so terrified for those parents when you show up to their game and you're like, I'm here to see Joey. You're like, whoa, who are you and how do you know my kid's name and why are you here? And so we have to kind of be that consistent voice in order to get to that point. You can't invest in a kid until you're consistently a voice. And so that's why it's hard because you have to build up to that. But the reality is that once you press that button, once you hear that kid, once you say, I want to be a coach and I want to invest in that child, you start earning the right to be that person. You start earning the right so that when we want to be the kind of church that instead of just getting a letter from Freedom Church when you have a birthday, we want it to be coming from a small group leader. How cool would that be? If the person that you've been meeting every week, even if you're in preschool right now and you're investing in kids and they see you every week, what if the letter for their birthday from the postcard that we send out every week, what if it came from you instead of from someone that doesn't know them? How much more meaningful could it be? How much more heartfelt could it be? Because they were like, oh my goodness, Miss Paula sent me a birthday card and it was amazing. And she even wrote it in a British accent. It's amazing. Like, wouldn't that be cool? And so that's kind of what we want to start investing in, and that's where we want to go. So this is going to help, this consistent voice piece is going to help us make those kind of decisions where we're like, you know what, maybe a postcard from Freedom Kids is good, but a postcard from someone the kids know is even better. And so that's where it starts to guide our decisions, where we said, we want to be a consistent voice, but what does that mean? And the second thing that I want to tell you is to be ready. Be ready. So be invested and be ready. And here's how we do that. Whenever you meet with a kid, whenever you're spending time with them, know that everything matters. Everything matters. Every little scrape on their knee, every little dog story, every little brother or sister squabble that they've had, everything matters. You know why everything matters? This is going to be a weird turn, so hear me. Everything matters because if not, nothing matters. Because if you're not building that rapport up with these kids, then they're not going to care what you have to give them. They're not going to care about the wisdom that you have. And the reality is that some of the things you've been through in your life, some of the really dark spots that you have in your life when you look back and maybe you're even a little ashamed of it, guess what? God allowed that to happen to you so that you can share wisdom with these kids. So you're taking the pain that you've already felt and saying that doesn't matter because you're not willing to apply it. And so I want you guys to be able to take every bright moment that you've had in your life, every dark alley in our lives that we've been down, and trust me, I've been down them too. So every dark time that we've had, we can use those things to be able to reach these kids. But unless we're ready, we can't be. And so we have to make sure that everything in the life of a child matters. You know why? Because we have to be Jesus to them. And if they were talking to Jesus, do you know who would care the most? Probably Jesus. He'd be like, yeah, I care about every little thing. I care about every knee that you scraped. I care that if you have a hangnail right now, it's really important. But it's not. But at the same time, it is important to them. And so we have to look at them. We have to communicate with them as if everything in the world mattered. Because if we don't, then nothing's going to matter to them coming from us. And so all those things build into what our definition of consistent voices is. So if you guys look up here, you can write down this whole phrase because this actually goes along with what we're saying. We desire for small group leaders to be present consistently. Now let me define small group leaders really quickly. A small group leader is eventually going to become part of where we're going in a lot of different areas. So it will eventually be outside of the elementary experience as well. And so for small group leaders, anyone who's actively investing in children in a room to be present consistently in the lives of the Children of Freedom kids so that trust is built and relationships are formed that will continue to speak Jesus into a child throughout their growing years. So this is the definition of a consistent voice. This is why it's so important. These are those relationships that we were just talking about building and how you do that. And so all of this kind of builds into a even bigger picture. And so as we continue building on top of this, think of these four things are basically the four pillars of what Freedom Kids is going to do and how we're going to make decisions moving forward. And we want you guys to be a part of that. And so that's why we want you to know it, and we want you to own it, because we want you to be a consistent voice in the lives of kids.